Okay, right. Uh, Good evening, everyone. Hope all of you are doing well, right? And fine. Uh, Actually, I wanted to type my name in uh, the kind of the window. It has not pop up, but you all are welcome. And just to get an update, uh, am I visible to all of you? Can you all see me?
Yes, sir, you're visible and audible both.
Right. Thank you very much. So it's quite good and it's quite wonderful to see you all in terms of this PPM webinar in order to familiarize yourself with regard to the upcoming the PPM exam, which is coming in terms of uh, our program with regard to the professional practice management and get yourself familiarized with the latest updates with regard to the auditing standards, as well as what sort of areas that you have to look for uh, going towards the exam. And this is very relevant for anyone who is into the professional practice and who needs to get information with regard to the latest updates on the program, as well as any aspiring members who are to practice. So that's the basic idea of this. And I would like to thank the CA Sri Lanka team, including Aruna, Augusta, and the team, organizing and to doing arranging this wonderful session. So just to start up everybody, with regard to the examination, right, PPM, which is around the corner, there are certain things that I wanted to tell you in terms of certain auditing standards that which are updated, as well as there is a high possibility of testing, right? So anyone facing the exam on the coming month of October, friends, it's very important that all of you have a critical idea, I would say, a certain idea with regard to the latest auditing standard of the revised Sri Lanka auditing standard number 315. If you can jot down it, it's ideal. Anyone facing the exam this time. Sri Lanka auditing standard number 315, understanding of the client and assessing the risk of the client. So SLA 315, revised standard, very critical. Go through it. Very important, right? I will give you certain brief idea about the risk of material misstatements, right? How to assess it. Some basic important risk of material misstatements I would let you know, which is there for the exam. Apart from that, students, friends, very important, have an idea about the revised standards of what you call assurance engagements and related services, right? Assurance engagements and related service. I will give you the standard numbers also towards the end of the program for you to get an idea. Any one of you out of the bunch who are here, just to get an idea, right? Anyone facing the exam coming October? Uh, if you can raise your hand from the widget you have and the gadgets. Anyone facing the exam? If you can raise your hands, I won't ask any questions, right? But just for my information and my idea, there's one. Okay, someone is there. Yeah, yeah, two. Good, good. Right, good, good. So yeah, thanks, Kaushan. Good. So, so for you as well as for any the others, everybody join. This is what we are going to say. Right. So, everyone, uh, something important for all of you, right? I will in the coming 2 hours, approximately 2 hours, I will plan out in this way. I will just give you a brief idea of the pre-seen material which has been shared by CA Sri Lanka for all of you. A brief idea, right? By now, the people who are facing the exam would have gone through the pre-seen material. So pre-seen material, I will give you basic idea about it, and then I will take you through, right? Take you through about the ethical considerations which we have to be faced with. So how to identify an ethical dilemma, okay, a conflict of interest, and to maintain independence, and how to resolve it. right? Just I will give you a brief idea about that because that can be tested, and anyone who has joined, refresh your mindset of how to resolve an ethical dilemma. We'll give you an idea about that. And on top of that, students, thereafter I will take you through some major risk of material misstatements that we have to be aware of, right? So we'll take you through risk of material misstatements thereafter, the second area, and then onwards I will take you through on risk of going concern, right? Going concern, because one thing, going concern is relevant to the shared pre-seen by CA Sri Lanka as well as risk of going concern. Many of you will be facing these days because of it's a fallout of the economic crisis, right? Many businesses, particularly the SMEs, sometimes the corporates as well, face the risk of going concern. So going concern, I will let you know. And certain important points that the examiner has told us to convey to you towards the exam that you got to I would say, be familiarized with. So the program is structured in that way. On the coming 1.5 hours to 2 hours is going to be like that. Okay, so hoping that this will help anybody, people who are facing the exam, as well as the people who are wanting to familiarize yourself with certain practice management areas. This is there for all of you. Okay, right. So anytime if you want to get yourself certain things clarified, uh, we will be there to help you. You can raise your hand. You can use the chat box, and the chat box is also open, and you can unmute your microphone, and you can speak at any time as well, because it's all open forum. We all are members, and it's like that. Just to give you an idea about myself, I wanted to type my name in the name column, but I couldn't do. My name is Nilendra Vitanage, a member of FCA, a fellow chartered accountant. I qualified in the year 2010, right? So I started my career somewhere in 2010, actually, after getting qualified. And then I did my first degree from the University of Sri Jayawardhanapur in uh, the financial management. And then I did my master's in University of Colombo in economics because I'm a banker. After my the practice, my audit firm, my auditing career, I joined banking sector, and presently I'm working in National Development Bank. You all would know it as NDB. I'm presently working as a chief manager there, looking after a zone comprising about 8 provinces in the 8 regions actually. So basically looking after about 60 odd branches. So that's my profession, actually, my employment, just to give you an idea on that. And apart from that, friends, professionally I'm a lecturer actually. I'm a lecturer for auditing, advanced audit and assurance, as well as a strategic level auditing lecturer for chartered accountancy exams, as well as doing some lectures for universities, as well as the Institute of Bankers of Sri Lanka for CA Sri Lanka. Certain webinars we have done with CA Sri Lanka for auditing subject. So my basic area is economics and auditing, in addition to being a chartered accountant. So that's basically about myself. So many of you, if you don't know me, would be wondering who is this is. So therefore, that's basically about myself. So glad that after getting qualified, again contributing back to the fraternity in this way. Okay, right, good. So with that introduction and things, let me share you this uh, the pre-scene which was shared by the CA Sri Lanka, right? Let me share you the pre-scene which was shared by the CA Sri Lanka. Yes. So let me share my screen. Hope you all can see my screen, right? My screen is visible to all of you.
Yes.
Great. Thank you. So friends, People who are joining the exam this time, the Surya PLC case, right? If you directly go into the case, it's a very wonderful, I think, a practical case, practical precedent that I have seen. So based on this, 70 marks will be allocated to all of you. So hope you all have read the case. So it's a stock market listed company. It's a PLC, which is into numerous industries. They do trading, automotive, agriculture industry. So they are into all sorts of diversified business areas, right? Since the interest of the time and since the crowd is diverse, I'm just going through it. So different business segments they have: trading, automotive, agriculture solutions, all these areas they do. And also they have a shareholding with diverse shareholding structure. So they are shareholding about 26% owned by Commerce Bank PLC, then there are Surya Capital PLC, and some individual shareholders are also there, and some high net worth shareholders comprising 100% stake shareholding. And apart from that, the company has invested in number of other subsidiaries as well, where they have different holdings, right? Mega Engineers, Safe Pharma, Seeds, Blue Leisure, Blue Resort. So different shareholdings are there. So I will just go through the context, right? People who are interested, you can read this as well. People who are doing the exam, you are now, I believe, you are familiarized with this. So they have different business lines, and also they have investments in different subsidiaries. A typical group structure is there. It's where a typical group of companies that you normally come across in your auditing, right? And also they have a set of board of directors, and they have the board subcommittees as well. So the basic subcommittees which are requested by the corporate governance, which includes the audit committee, remuneration committee, related party transactions review committee, management committee is there, but we don't see a nomination committee here. Okay, but we don't see a nomination committee. Nomination committee we don't see. So that problem is there. And on top of that, friends, there is another information which is shared to you. We have a what you call the governance structure, where the board of directors comprise of, you have Manoj Sirivardhan, who is the executive chairman. You have a problem there. I will come to that when I'm discussing the governance issues in this case. Executive chairman. Mane De Silva, executive director. You have non-executive director called Duncan Edrisurya, and you have another non-executive director, Kamesh Fernando, another non-executive director, Asiri, and Gayan PSN, who is executive director, and they have chartered accountant also in the board, who is executive director. Okay, so chairman of the audit committee is there, who is also a chartered accountant, Duncan Edrisurya, 35 years of experience, and he's a member of the related party transactions monitoring committee as well, non-executive independent director. So appropriate level of financial acumen is also there in the board. Senior management team also there, CEO, FD, chief executive officer, and chief financial officer, one person, right? So we will come back to the governance when we are discussing. Chief executive officer and chief financial officer, one person. The chief operating officer is there, chief marketing officer, chief people officer, internal audit, head of risk is there. So likewise, all these issues are there. Then you have risk management at Surya, risk management process. Friends, they have a risk management committee. So they have effective integrated risk management, I would say. They identify the risk, they assess the risk, respond to the risk by transfer, acceptance, reduction, and avoidance, and they monitor the risk. They have internal audit department as well. Internal auditor reports to the audit committee, and marketing and sales, everything is there. Then they have IT, recent developments of the company is also there, finance function also there, the stock market, stock prices also into 4A. And the company, when you take, I'm just giving you this information part quickly, just to give you a context, the context among you. Company has a drop in its revenue from 17 billion to 16.7 billion, and their gross profit has also come down. In the year 2024, due to the massive finance cost, which was around 1.8 billion to 5.8 billion, actually the company with a slight loss of 50 million last year has come to a 7.9 billion massive loss. When you have a 7.9 billion loss, friends, I would say there is a critical issue which the business is facing, right? 7.9 billion loss. So with that 7.9 billion loss, their retained earnings actually cut down to half, which was 15 billion, came down to 7.6 billion. So these issues are also there, right? So the investees, they have invested, their subsidiaries, that those are also, friends, are doing some losses, incurring losses. And the current economic outlook of the country also given by the examiner, GDP growth forecast, everything is there. So those information is there. A typical scenario of a company facing financial issues, right? A typical scenario of a company facing financial issues. Let's take the issues one by one. Right. One thing, right? Now, these days, you would see companies are facing numerous issues. Right? If we take these companies, they are facing numerous issues in terms of their business. One of the main issues these companies are facing is going concern. Right? If you take one after the other, companies facing going concern issues. So one thing that auditors always have to be aware of, how to capture the material uncertainties of going concern. Material uncertainties of going concern. Friends, the auditing standard, Sri Lanka auditing standard number 570, SLAS 570 will give you the necessary idea, details about what to do and what to not to do in terms of clients going concern. We all have to remember, we should request, number one, from the client, we have to request his preliminary assessment of going concern, because going concern assessment prior to preparing the financial statements, the CFO has to prepare a preliminary assessment of going concern. So auditor, when you are trying to assess the risk of material misstatements with regard to going concern, you got to request from the management their preliminary assessment of going concern. So Sri Lanka auditing standard number 570 says, yes, the assessment of going concern, preparation of the preliminary assessment of going concern, it's a duty of the management. So auditor's responsibility is to ensure that the financial statements audited by them are free from the material misstatements coming from the risk of going concern. So auditor has to request the preliminary assessment of going concern from the management. If the management has not prepared the preliminary assessment of going concern, yes, we need to assess the risk of material uncertainties happening in the going concern. Material uncertainties happening in going concern. They can be, friends, material uncertainties of going concern can be, right? Material uncertainties of going concern can be either, right, financial issues. Material uncertainties of going concern can be financial issues. These are certain types of early warning signals, right? Early warning signals. The financial indicators of material uncertainties of going concern, right? Now, in the pre-scene that has been shared with you by CA Sri Lanka, the business is incurring thumping losses due to finance cost. That means they are not managing their finance cost appropriately, right? So I would say they have losses. Business is operating loss and net liabilities. See, the standard gives you certain amount of these kind of material uncertainties of going concern. Financial issues are there. Net liabilities and net current liability position. Sometimes, friends, fixed term borrowings approaching maturity without realistic prospect of repayment. Right? Now, actually, the country went into bankruptcy because of that. No? When the international sovereign bonds and Sri Lanka development bonds matured, country didn't have the reserves to repay it. So fixed term borrowing approaching maturity without realistic prospect of repayment. Or indication of withdrawal of financial support. So in the exam, examiner may come up with bank not willing to renew the overdraft, bank not willing to extend more credit, withdrawal of financial support by creditors. So you have to be having your eye on these indicators. Material uncertainties of going concern due to financial issues. Negative operating cash flows. In the exam, the examiner may come up with that. Adverse key financial ratios, right? Things like that. Substantial operating losses. Okay. Likewise, or in the operations of the business. Right? Then losses, labor difficulties, things like that. Then labor difficulties, shortage of important supplies. Now, sometimes due to certain issues, shortage of supplies are there. Okay. Then non-compliance with capital or statutory regulatory requirements. Maybe regulatory requirements with regard to the stock market or with regard to the business is into agriculture equipment sales, right? Business is into different other sales as well. So when you have these kind of issues, right, be on alert in terms of going concern. Be on alert to these kind of material uncertainties of going concern. So that's one of the responsibilities that you have to do as an auditor. Stay on alert for these early warning signals, material uncertainties of going concern. If material uncertainties of going concern persist, if these are existing, you need to appropriately address them as per SLAUS 570 in your audit report. That's the importance. So the people who are facing the exam in the October, right? Be prepared with the set of material uncertainties. Familiarize yourself with the set of material uncertainties of going concern coming from financial, operating, and other uncertainties, and the standard given reporting requirements for each of these. So basically, if the management do not extend you management's preliminary assessment of going concern, then you got to be quite prepared to, if the other procedures also don't give you the necessary sufficient appropriate audit evidence, unable to do anything else, just qualify or issue a disclaimer of opinion because you have a limitation of scope, unable to obtain audit evidence. But if the management goes ahead with the unmodified, if the management go ahead with going concern type of financial statement preparation, nothing to do. It's a material misstatement, material and pervasive sometimes. Go ahead with qualified and adverse opinion. Modify the opinion. So familiarize yourself, friends, with the requirements of Sri Lanka auditing standard number 570. So seeing this case as well as seeing the current business environment, many of you would be aware of. I would say SLAUS 570, Sri Lanka auditing standard number 570 will be one of the key auditing standards that we have to be aware of. SLAUS 570. Be aware of that. Okay, so I have enlightened you. Number one, request from the client, the preliminary assessment of going concern. That's number one. That's your requirement. Number two, have your eyes, right? Keep your focus on the material uncertainties of going concern coming from financial, operating, and other. That's another thing. And then the audit reporting requirements. If the client is unable to extend to you the relevant material preliminary assessment of going concern, if the client is unable to extend that to you, yes, unable to do anything else, it's a limitation of scope, qualified and disclaimer of opinion. If when there is what you call material uncertainties of going concern are there, and the going concern is also not established, at that time, if the management prepared the financial statements on going concern basis, it's a misstatement, material and pervasive, go ahead with qualified or adverse opinion. That's something that you got to do. I have just refreshed your mindset with regard to Sri Lanka auditing standard number 570. Have a look before you go to the exam with that standard. Will be a critical auditing standard. Any questions from there so far? Any question? Any question? Hope all is well, all is okay, right? And the other point, this is for the people who are who have joined and who are doing the exam this time, right? People who are doing the exam this time. Students, when you are writing up the answer, right? When you are writing down your answer for the paper, always be specific. One of the problems that the examiner has seen in terms of this PPM exam, there will be people who have got down, who were unfortunately who were not being able to get through the exam last time. Friends, if you are unable to get through the exam last time, one of the main reasons you are unable to get through PPM exam, professional practice management, last time, because you have given the answer, right? Your answer, then nothing. You would have given the answer, but your answer was not specific. You were just elaborating something from the auditing standard. Right now, almost all of you are members now, right? Now you could have seen how difficult and how tough was the auditing paper. Auditing paper is tough. That's purely because our answers are not up to the point. What we do is, because the exam is open book now. So what you do, you just reproduced something from the standard just on the book, answer book. So don't do that. People who do the exam this time, be mindful, you don't get marks for reproducing something from the standard book into an exam sheet. Now, that can be done by a grade 5 scholarship student, no? That can be done by a person who is doing grade 5 scholarship. So what is expected from you at the exam of PPM is, students, yes, refer to the open book material, right? Refer to the open book material balan, right? No problem with that, right? I will let you know what are the open book materials as well. So refer to the open book material, but tailor-made your answer to the given case. Answer then the given case second. I know you all are busy, right? You all are busy with your work. You all are busy with what you are doing. But please do study and go. Get the matters from the book, open books, but make it relevant to what is expected from you by the examiner. Okay. Examiner relevant kara. That's the important fact. Okay, let me share you what are the open book materials which are requested for this exam. So, friends, for your exam, upcoming October PPM exam, these open book materials are recommended, right? So, Sri Lanka Auditing Standards, latest volume. Then Sri Lanka standards on other assurance engagements. That includes agreed upon procedures. That includes, I say, compilations, the due diligence, right? Then review engagements. All these. review of interim financial statements, review of pro forma financial statements, all these. So Sri Lanka standards on other assurance engagement related services should be with you. Then Sri Lanka stand framework on audit quality, right? So firm level as well as engagement level quality management. Okay. So Sri Lanka standards on quality management 1 and quality management 2. So audit quality management, those two standards also should be there. Then code of best practice on corporate governance. So corporate governance, the latest pronouncement should be there, right? Then the corporate governance of SMEs 2019. Then the code of ethics latest 2023 code of ethics open book material. So professional practice materials study pack should also be there. Okay. Then Sri Lanka standards on quality management 1 and 2 and SLA US 220 revised should be there. So people who are doing the exam, right, take these open book materials with you. Take these open book materials with you, but be very careful. Don't just reproduce, right? Don't just reproduce the things, stuff from the open book material as it is. What you got to do, provide the information from the open book material and tailor-made it specifically for the answer. Specifically, tailor-made it specifically for the answer. That's critically important, and examiner wanted to convey this to the people who are doing the exam this time. Very important. That's something that I wanted to convey to you. Right? Okay. Good. Anything from that place? Friends? Anything to be clarified? Okay. So remember, answer should be specific. Yes, you get it from the open book material, but the specific answer has to be provided. And the other thing, this is for the people who are doing the exam, right? And the other point, friends, is that you should be pretty much careful that, remember, all of you should be thinking that you are a partner of an audit firm. Okay. Think that you are a partner of an audit firm partner. So since you are a partner of an audit firm, one thing very important is that be careful, analyze the overall picture, right? Pros and cons, advantages, disadvantages, information for or not, for, against, analyze the information. But answer has to be specific, right? You can't go around the mulberry bush when you are answering. That's really important as well, right? So when you are answering at the PPM exam coming in, right? So, and because think that you are the partner of the audit firm. Partner of the audit firm has to provide solutions. Solutions then not, right? So you should not go around the kind of bush and just provide a general answer. So yes, advantage, disadvantage, yeah, for, against, advantage, disadvantage, for, against, but provide with a necessary recommendation and conclusion. That's expected from you. It is expected from you. Understood? And also everybody, when you are coming up with the materials, right, your answer, when you are coming up with your answer, it's really important that you write your answer with regard to the action verbs. Remember that, everybody. So when you answer, always your answer has to be in accordance with the action verbs. Answer got to be in accordance with the action verbs. So remember, when the examiner asks you to define something, yes, you got to define. When he asks you to draw something, you got to draw. When he asks you to list, you got to list, right? When he asks you to compile, you got to do something, convince something, conclude, analyze, answer according to the action verb. So if you are not familiar with the action verbs, everybody, I request all of you, go through CA Sri Lanka action verbs, right? The professional practice management study pack has the action verb as well as the relevant meaning and relevant requirement of the action verb. Remember, your answer has to be in accordance with the action verbs. So I won't be able to do within 1.5 hours the entire action verbs altogether, but I can tell you, guide yourself with the action verbs. Your answer has to be in accordance with the action verbs going forward. Really important. Okay, right. That's again something that I want to tell you, people who are doing the exam this October. So friends, number one, your answer has to be specific, to the point. Get the information from the open book material, but specific to the given case. That's number one. Number two, action verb driven answers. Number three, after analyzing the entire thing, provide a specific answer. That has to be there. Okay, right. Then I'm coming to another area. Risk of material misstatements. Why risk of material misstatements are important? Let me share the screen. Right. Now, whatever we do in auditing, right? Whatever we do is finding risk of material misstatements, right? We wanted to bring down our audit risk to an acceptable low level, and then only we will be able to provide a higher level of assurance. That's our whole expectation. So we want to bring down the audit risk to an acceptable level and then express a higher level of assurance in an audit. That's what we are going to do. So therefore, we got to always bring down our detection risk. So we have to identify the inherent and control risk. So everyone, people who are doing the exam and people who have joined here, we have to have a kind of an idea, a good idea with regard to how to evaluate the risk of material misstatements. That's something that we all, a skill that all of you have to have. Let's see. Now, very important, I have shared this learning material I am sharing. Just I can't go through the all the slides, but everybody, we are driven by the true and fair view, where we have a financial reporting framework. So we are evaluating the given financial statements against the framework, and then we are providing a true and fair view opinion. Then material misstatements, inherent and control risk. So true and fair view, we know based on a general purpose financial reporting framework we are expressing. Then the material misstatement, how to capture material misstatements. That's a skill that we need to have. So assertion level risk, all these are there. So these are just the assertions. I'm just going through a bit fast, right? I will ask CA Sri Lanka to share these materials with you. I will ask this CA Sri Lanka to share this material with the people who are doing the exam. So I will just go through, right, because of the interest of time. So everybody, be always familiarize with the financial statement assertions, like assertions on the class of transactions such as occurrence, completeness, accuracy, cutoff, classification, things like that, and assertions on the balance sheet amounts like existence, rights and obligations, the completeness and valuations and all. Be familiarized with your assertions, because students, based on the assertions only we do our procedures. Okay, so risk identification of risk of material misstatements, you should always target the assertion with your audit procedures, right? So assertions, be familiarized with the assertions, because we got to test the assertion. So in the exam, if examiner requests you a particular audit procedure has to be written with the audit objective of testing the assertion. So remember, your audit procedure is incomplete if you are unable to elaborate which assertion that you are going to test. Mark my word, huh? What I said is critically important to get your marks at the PPM exam. Your audit procedure, in the exam, you will be asked to provide procedures. Procedures then examine illano. When the examiner requests any procedure, remember to mention the audit objective of the procedure as well as the relevant assertion that is being tested. Extremely important, right? Tested assertion together with the procedure has to be provided. Remember that. So as if I give you an example, you may say, in order to test the rights and obligations of the motor vehicles, request the original certificate of registration, vehicle registration book. In order to test the rights and obligations, which is the assertion, right? Rights and obligations test karan. In order to test that, request the original vehicle registration book. Then by doing that, we ensure we are getting the sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. Original vehicle registration book, sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. With the audit objective, we are testing. And remember, everybody, now if you have forgotten, remember, a procedure you perform to test a particular assertion will not be the same procedure for another assertion. Remember that. So let's say you can obtain the original vehicle registration book to test the rights and obligation, but that particular audit procedure will not be sufficient to test the existence of the motor vehicle. To test the existence, vehicle registration book is useless. For that, you need to take the fixed asset register. You have to go to the vehicle yard. You have to do a physical verification of the motor vehicle. And you have to test what? You have to inspect for engine number, chassis number, vehicle number plate number, and physically inspect whether the vehicle is there. So specific assertion, specific audit procedure. Remember that as well, right? So in the practice also, right? Remember whether your junior staff members are doing that, whether your juniors are performing a particular audit procedure with the specific audit objective in their mind, as well as whether they are critically ensure that the assertion is tested. If not, it's only it's only a waste of time. Remember that, everybody. Agree? And the other thing, right? In the given case that we have went through, there are a lot of inherent risks. Right? The business is facing a massive level of losses, right? Business is facing a critical level of losses. Can anyone let me know when the business is earning losses, what sort of risk we have? Can anyone share that in the chat box? When the business is earning losses, what sort of risks they have? If I open the forum for all of you, without asking any specific person, if the business is earning losses, what sort of risk of material misstatements are there? Specifically, the inherent risk. Anyone? Now, when a particular business is earning losses, what will happen? The management themselves will get threatened. Hey, I will not get my bonus. This year, my bonus will not be received. Because in many of these companies, the CEO's performance, right? CEO's performance is so critical. CEO has to ensure the number coming. CEO got to ensure the number coming. If the CEO unable to ensure the number coming, he won't be able to get his bonus. He won't be able to get his allowance. CEO is unable to get his bonus and allowance. So that particular problem is there. And in this company, Surya PLC, we have another problem. We got another problem in Surya PLC. Can anyone remember? If you can remember, this company has, this is for the people who are doing the exam this time, this company has a CEO, that CEO and CFO, one person. Do you get that point? Do you all get my point? CEO and CFO, friends, is a one person. So that person, Sujata Piris, because CEO and CFO, one person, she can cook the numbers. She can create the numbers. She can cook numbers. She can create numbers. That risk is there, right? Cooking numbers. Numbers can be created in order to get what? Overstate the profits, overstate the, let's say, asset values. To do that, she has all opportunity to commit the fraud. Fraud, the opportunity is there, right? Because CEO and CFO, one person. The most important checks and balance in terms of corporate governance is not there. Get my point? Get the point, friends? Right? So window dressing risk, risk of creative accounting, fraudulent financial reporting, overstatement of figures is so high. Yes, basically Sujata Piris may be a person who is having previous integrity. Sujata Piris may be a person who had very good level of integrity, but previous integrity, previous performance, previous quality, useless. Previous integrity, previous performance is useless. What we require, what we don't know, opportunity to commit a fraud by making CEO, CFO one person. Agree? Anyone remember the fraud triangle? People who are doing the exam, Sri Lanka auditing standard number 240, auditor's responsibility with regard to fraud is also really important. Fraud. Anyone remember the fraud triangle? Can I know the three most corner points of fraud triangle? Can anyone remember? Fraud triangle, three most corner points. Chat box is open for you. Opportunity to commit a fraud. Then motivation or pressure to commit a fraud. You are pushed to the ground to commit a fraud. Motivation and pressure. There is an opportunity in this case where CEO, CFO, one person. And when the business is not doing well, chances are there they can create the numbers. And also what? Apart from that, the rationale to commit a fraud. When the economic situation of the country, economy, the business, when those are not there, people willingly rationalize committing frauds. I'm not paid well. My salary is not enough. So I may have to commit a fraud. Oh, my family member is terminally ill at home. I don't have money. My salary is not enough. It's justifiable to commit some frauds. So previous integrity, honesty of people is no longer valid. Tolerance level for frauds is zero. Tolerance level for frauds is zero. Remember that, everybody. Okay, let's move on. Right? You got it? So these inherent risk factors are also important. Let me share the screen once again. So far, any questions, friends? Are there any questions so far? Can I have your response? Any questions? No questions, so we can proceed, right? We can proceed. Right. So there are a number of inherent risk factors that are there, which we got to be very careful, right? In a business, when you are auditing also, inherent risk is one of the major risks that is coming from, which is inherent to the business, which is the susceptibility of an account balance or class of transaction to become materially misstated, aggregated individually, provided there are no relevant internal controls. Inherent risk can come from various factors. Number one, integrity and attitude to risk of the management. So when the management is having a poor oversight, management is like, let's say, that particular employee worked for me for 15 years. So I'm pretty much sure about him, right? So situation like that. This guy was pretty much sure. This guy is pretty much sure for me, right? So therefore, I will have a kind of a little bit level of oversight situation like that. Inherent risk factors like integrity and attitude to risk or lesser level of management experience. When you don't have management experience also, there is a kind of a risk that can happen. So that's why we always say risk experience is important on many things. Experience. Then when the management is facing unusual pressure, you have inherent risk. Now, in the given case of Surya PLC, loss-making business, cash flow is also not there. And also in the examination case, sometimes they may have to pay off a big loan, unusual pressure. They will tend to commit frauds. Sometimes the nature of the business they are in, right? That may create inherent risk factors. Then, sorry, industry factors when the industry is saturated, industry is not growing, industry kind of bogged down. Then the cyber security risk. Cyber security risk. Many organizations are now having complex databases. Many organizations now having complex databases. When you have databases, if your databases are not properly protected, cyber security risk is everywhere. Risk of phishing, risk of hacking, risk of breaking of firewalls, viruses, Trojan horses, all these cyber security risks are there. So your knowledge about cybersecurity controls, like spam filters, like antivirus software, like patching softwares every time, like let's say backup copies, everything, segregation of duties, having a separate IT department, cybersecurity, people who are doing the exam, cybersecurity risk management, very important, right? So people who are not doing the exam, but also doing practical auditing, friends, going forward, cyber security is critically important, right? So things like that. Then financial statement figures which are prone for misstatements, large value transactions. Now it's a group of companies. Surya PLC is a group of companies, complex accounts, right? Now, if I tell you assets which are smaller in size, larger in value, like the jewelries, smaller in size, larger in value, particular inherent risk factors. Be careful on it. Be careful. Inherent risk factors. Asset values, computer chips, computer hardware, the gems, jewelry, the stones, precious stones. Inherent risk. Risk of material misstatements. Be on alert. People who are doing the exam as well as the people who are, I would say, learning, right? Join this program for learning purpose. Pretty much you should be mindful about that. Okay. So inherent risk factors, right? And then the fair value measurement. Why? Now, if you remember the case that you would have learned when you were doing your auditing, You would have learned about the famous Arthur Andersen collapse. Anyone remember the Arthur Andersen collapse? Winding up of the big five audit firm. Arthur Andersen. Anyone familiar? If you are familiar with that, please raise your hand. Raise your hand. I won't ask any question. Prashna ahanne. Just to see whether you guys are there, just to raise your hands. Anyone familiar with the Arthur Andersen case? If I say Enron case, are you familiar? Case of Enron, are you all familiar with that? You would have, no? Now, in the famous Enron fiasco, then big five audit firm, the American US firm of Arthur Andersen, was not able to identify the material uncertainties of going concern with regard to a global energy giant company known as Enron. Because of that, auditors have given unmodified audit opinion, but 1 year down the line, Enron, which was about $50 billion company, $50 billion company, had to wind up. $50 billion global giant in energy had to wind up. Agree. So remember, Arthur Andersen gave unmodified audit opinion. In the consolidation worksheet, about 2 to 3 loss-making subsidiaries of Enron were omitted from the consolidation worksheet. So when the grouping of the financial statements, when the grouping done, loss-making subsidiaries were omitted, and the audit firm, big five audit firm at that time, was not being able to capture that. Audit firm wound up. So professional practice management, inherent risk, friends. When the management is pushed to the ground, when this Sujata Piris, CEO, CFO, same person, she's there, when she is pushed to the ground, she may do that. She may do that. Okay. There is a possibility that she can do that. So remember that, everybody. Remember it. That risk is also there. Agree? Right? Right. Let's move. Let's check your microphones, everybody. Right. Let me share the screen once again. Then the fair value measurements. Right. This also is an area, because in Surya case, I have seen the business has investments in subsidiaries, and also business can have investments in fair value in investment properties, right? All these group of companies, all these large companies are having, friends, fair value measurements. So when the fair values are there, when you have assumptions based fair value estimates, assumptions based estimated figures like investment property, like the impairment, like provision for inventory obsolescence, provision for bad and doubtful debts, right? Or you have any provision or a fair value measurement which is assumptions based, the risk of fraudulent financial reporting is really important. So the auditing standards, Sri Lanka auditing standard number 240, frauds, right? Remember, 240 frauds, and SLA was 540, auditing of accounting estimates, critically important. These two standards, right? 240 and 540, critically important. You need to have an idea about 240 and 540. So 240, fraud triangle, identification of fraud risk factors and fraud red flags. Fraud risk factors identification and fraud red flags. Extremely important. Students, since we have only 1.5 hours to do the program, I won't be able to do the entire 240 because I have to just give you an idea of what are tested. So 240, be prepared with fraud risk factors, fraud triangle, and fraud red flags. Sometimes in the client place, when you have seen critically CEO, CFO, one person, it's a fraud risk factor, right? And be on alert for fraud red flags as well. Sometimes when there is continuous disagreements with the auditors, or auditors are frequently changed, deliberate attempt to understaff the internal audit and finance departments, right? Finance department and internal audit department vacancies are not filled. When you see them deliberately happening, these kind of things, when you see deliberately happening, students and friends, we have to be on alert. We have to be specifically clear with that, right? And then SLAUS 540, auditing accounting estimates. So in that, you need to be aware of what are the requirements of the relevant auditing standards, right? Now, these are the examples I told you about fair value estimates, which are based on assumptions. Then SLAS 500, these are all that will create risk of material misstatements, right? So we have to be on alert. We have to be aware about the relevant financial reporting framework, accounting standard requirement, why the management has done it, management's purpose, management's objective, management's process of doing it. We have to be on alert. We should know why the management did this provision. Is this provision adequate? Are the assumptions used by management realistic? Have they used reasonable, realistic assumptions when they made the provision? Be on alert. And also we have to be, by ourselves, we have to test whether this provision or this assertion is adequate. We have to test whether this provision or this is adequate. Really, really important. Auditor has to evaluate all these. All these the auditor has to evaluate. Right? And also events occurring after the date of the financial statements. If they have made a provision, if they have made some sort of estimate, subsequent events also you have to clearly take into your mind. So Sri Lanka auditing standard number 560, subsequent events should be in your mind. Related party transactions should be in your mind. So impairment, intangible non-current assets, goodwill, research and development cost, related party transactions, revenue, these kind of potential risk areas you have to be clear, right? So impairment, intangible non-current assets, the goodwill, R&D, related party transactions, revenue. So what are the requirements of LKS 36, right? Carrying value as well as the recoverable amount, estimation of that and estimation of the difference. Then intangible non-current assets, right? Whether these managements recognized intangible non-current assets, are they falling into LKS 38 recognition criteria? Are those controlled by the management? Are there any benefits and cash flows are coming into the organization if they have recognized intangible non-current assets? Really important. Intangible non-current assets. Whether those assertions are there, right? Have they clearly stated these intangible non-current assets? Right. Then the goodwill. Now, goodwill, sometimes the management wouldn't have tested for impairment or tested for amortization. So whether the goodwill is properly valued, right? Valuation of goodwill, the assertion. So if the goodwill is overstated, risk of material misstatement. Then the research and development cost, the recognition criteria. Sometimes research cost which has to be charged to the income statement may be recognized as development cost. So specifically be on alert on that. Then the financial instruments which are coming in SLFRS 9, IFRS 9, right? The recognition criteria, right? Hedge accounting, that is also SLFRS 9. Then one of the most important one, Sri Lanka auditing standard number 550, related party transactions. Related party transactions, the non-disclosure of risk, non-disclosure of related party transactions, that risk. Be specific, be on alert, be prepared with the auditing standard, with the standard book, open book material, open up. Everybody, right? Whether there is a control, whether there is a significant influence. And because the related party transactions has a significant risk of fraud, inherent risk of material misstatement, students, we have to be specifically thorough with this standard. Everybody. And the revenue recognition, right? Because revenue, right? Revenue recognition based on the contract, based on the fulfillment of the obligations of the buyer and the seller, there is a specific significant audit risk, revenue. Every time, students, I would like you putting in revenue as a significant audit risk. Special audit attention has to be given to the revenue every time. Special audit attention has to be given to revenue, everybody. Revenue is a significant risk area every time. So this material, people who are doing the exam, there are 6-step process for revenue recognition. Has to be there. For people who are doing the exam, I will share with CA Sri Lanka this my PowerPoint presentation, so you can get an idea from that on that as well. Anything from what we have done so far before we move on to from inherent risk to the control risk? Anything, friends? Okay, so that means we are good to go. Let me share. Right. Friends, the control risk. That's also really important. COSO framework of internal controls. Control environment, risk assessment process, information and communication flow, control activities and monitoring of controls. COSO framework of internal controls. Now, this is the basic preliminary model that we use to manage our control risk, right? So in the given scenario of Surya PLC or else your 30 marks question, right? If there is a control risk in the internal control related or control risk related question comes to you, right? If a control risk related question comes to you, students, friends, be specifically put that information into your COSO framework. Everybody has to be familiar with the COSO framework if you are doing practical auditing, because in any organization, evaluation of the control environment is really important, right? Evaluation of the control environment is extremely important because control risk itself comes from the control environment. If you have a poor governance structure in the business, if the attention to detail or management oversight is not there, or integrity of the management not there, no proper structures, policies and procedures not there, the chances of financial statements having material misstatements is there. So control environment, auditors should be able to evaluate the control environment specifically. Evaluation of control environment, extremely important. So when you do audits, when you go and do audits, start your audits with evaluation of the control environment. That's important because weaknesses in the control environment ultimately will lead to create a risk of material misstatements. So evaluation of control environment is your task, is your duty. Auditors, you got to do it. Got to do it. Right? So COSO framework, 5 main elements, 17 sub-elements. Right? I hope the people who are doing the exam, when I'm saying all this, you are jotting it down. If not, view the recording. Right? So very important, everybody. Control risk evaluation, COSO framework evaluation, extremely important. Then identification of the business risk of the case. Now, every business will have business risk. Business risk means the risk that you are unable to achieve your objectives. Every business will have a vision, mission. They have a strategic objective, strategic goals, vision and mission. Business has a vision and a mission. Strategic goals, strategic objectives are there for any business. So when you have strategic goals and strategic objectives, right? When you have strategic goals and strategic objectives, it's extremely important that you achieve those. If you are unable to achieve a strategic goal, such as, let's say, double your revenue, triple your bottom line of profits, if you're unable to achieve that, you are facing a business risk. Business risk will ultimately result in risk of material misstatements in the financial statements. That's why auditors are worried about business risk. So in the given case of Surya PLC, everybody, we have seen a lot of business risk, right? The country's economy is just only now recovering from the turmoil. There is now political instability because elections are coming in. Business risk, right? And in the meantime, the technological updation in the industries that the client is in, business risk. So we are worried when the business risk results in risk of material misstatements. Example, when your client is in highly technology driven industry, when your client is in a highly technology driven industry, chances are such that the industry is driven by technology. If you are not quite quickly updating into this technology, there is a chance that you will get outdated and your stocks will be outdated. So when your stocks are outdated, LKS2 says inventory has to be valued at cost or net realizable value, whichever is lower. But your stock is outdated, then your stock, there is a risk of your stocks are overstated. Business risk. Economy faced a crisis. Revenue coming down. Debtors are taking more period to pay. Impairment of debtors. More provisioning. So overstatement of receivables. That risk is there. That business risk is there. So everybody, remember, when you are evaluating a case, when you evaluate a case, everybody, do remember business risk has to be analyzed. Okay? Business risk. Risk that the business unable to achieve its objectives has to be there. Strategic risk, then the strategic risk. Long-term risk of the business, I'm just going through. Then the operational risk such as IT risk, infrastructure risk, risk to operations, human errors, loss of key persons. Then the reputation damage, also ultimately resulting risk of material misstatements. So everyone, We are worried as an auditor. Auditor is worried with regard to all of these risks, not because of anything else, because these risks will result in risk of material misstatements in the financial statements. That's why we are worried about the business risk, the reputation risk, the IT risk, I would say the digital cybersecurity risk, like hacking, phishing, Trojan horses. We are worried about those risks because those risks will create risk of material misstatements in the financial statements. So that's why we should be on alert on them, friends. Agree? Any questions up to that? Before I move to the last area, ethics. Any questions? Right. Let's move. Sorry. Then we all, the people who are in practice, right? You and I, the people who are in practice, we all are facing the ethics, the risks, the threat to our independence. We all are facing the threat to our independence, right? So the code of ethics is extremely important because we all are professionals, friends, right? Professionals have to maintain professionalism. Chartered accountants, professional practice management, right? Remember that this country wouldn't have been in this situation, or I think I won't say that the country is what you call not that bad, but country would be in a better position if the professionals have done their job professionally. For certain extent, the way that we blame the politicians, professionals should also bear part of the blame for that because professionals have not done the professional job. We all had conflict of interest, right? Almost all the professionals had the conflict of interest. So whatever you do has to be done based on the CA Sri Lanka professional code of ethics. So everybody, we all have to be guided by the conceptual framework. So the independence in mind and independence in appearance has to be maintained. The integrity, the objectivity, the professional competence and due care, maintaining confidentiality and objectivity, and doing our stuff in accordance with no cloud, right? So that kind of abiding of this CA Sri Lanka professional code is important, and avoiding of conflict of interest, self-interest, self-review, advocacy, familiar and intimidation. Avoid those conflict of interest as much as possible because if you violate the code of ethics, there is no turning back thereafter. If we violate the code of ethics, friends, there is no turning back everybody. Violate කරොත් මේක turning back එකක් නෑ, right? Remember that. And when we are faced with ethical dilemmas, time to time we are facing ethical dilemmas. Can happen, right? Because in my classes, I always preach auditing is not a job like selling ice cream on a bright sunny day. On a bright sunny day, when you sell an ice cream, your customers will be happy, right? But auditing is not like that. Because of our job, some people will lose their jobs. Unfortunate, right? Some criminals will lose their criminal earnings. Criminals will lose their criminal earnings. That kind of risk is there. So our job will lose some people's. Some people's income sources will be lost because sometimes it may be criminal. So we may be exerted so much of pressure. And on the other side, we will face conflict of interest. So have to be in line with ethics. So we can face different types of ethical dilemmas. Ethical dilemmas will be there for us, right? It can be we getting to know one of our superiors have done some bad, or someone is pressurizing us to do something that is bad, or that is violating our code of ethics. So at that time, we should always go by the Tucker's model or American Accounting Association model, right? People who have joined the live, Tucker's model or American Accounting Association model. We have to be guided by that. Very important. Extremely important. So remember, ethical issues when we are faced with, always we have to go ahead with the conceptual framework, the Code of Ethics of 2023. Remember that. Agree. Right. Any questions, everyone? So just to sum up, for the betterment of the people who have done, right? For the betterment of the, I would say, everybody who have done uh, doing the exam, remember the key points I told you. Number one, point number one, PPM exam, friends, very practical. So therefore, the exam is open book. Use your answering based on the action verbs. Your answering has to be based on the action verbs. Imagine, think that you are a partner of an audit firm. So therefore, no writing down around the corner. You analyze the entire case and write down specific answers. Analyze the entire case, write down specific answers. That's the requirement from you. And on the other side, very important, everybody, answers should be specific and answers should be related to the case. Action verbs are tested, so write down your answers to the action verbs. So risk of material misstatements, the control risk, very important. And also knowledge about SLAs 240, knowledge about SLAs 540, all the risk assessment standards as well as audit procedures, extremely important. So be practical when you are answering. Stay practical and be practical when you are answering. That's extremely important. Examiner expects that from you. Okay. And I will share these materials with the CS Sri Lanka. So they may, if you want, you can obtain them from you, those from you. Anything else before we call it a day? We wind up, and there will be another session for you that is also being advertised by CS Sri Lanka on this professional practice management examination. You can join to that as well. Anything else before we wind up that you want to get clarifications? And friends, anyone needs further clarification, people who are doing the exam this time, my contact number 077 077 81915. I will put that in the chat box. 077 81915. Right. So you can ask anything, any clarifications from me at any time. Okay, so friends, it's nice to see you all. You are so encouraging to see many people join. And for the people who are doing the exam this time, I wish you all the very best, because what you call the basic objective of doing chartered is to practice, right? One thing I enjoy most is practicing, right? Because it's a challenging task, meeting deadlines, doing good job, right? And supporting clients, because what we do is a value addition, right? Because auditing not no longer is just giving an opinion, it's a value addition that we do. So therefore, I wish you all the best. For the people who are doing the exam, I wish you good luck. And I hope all of you who are doing the exam this time pass, and hope the program that we did today enlightened you on a lot of areas. We didn't have much of time to, what you call, in detail elaborate you on every aspect, but I wanted to enlighten you. I wanted to highlight you on the important areas that you had to look for based on the pre-scene, and also general areas that are needed, right? And CPD link is also there. So for the CPD link, everybody, uh, update your membership numbers and things like that. So update all those details as well. So hope your clarifications, whatever you needed, is done. And one last time, anything else to be clarified? If not, you have my contact details. Anytime you can connect with me, you can get your matter sorted out. So thank you very much, everybody. Good night to all of you. And people who are doing the exam, do study, right? I know how hard, how tough it is to study while you are doing the job. Good luck, everybody. Thank you.